Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And with your permission, I would like to make a statement to the House setting out the Government's proposals for updating the 2019 statutory guidance on relationships, sex and health education, which my department has published today for consultation, and I would like to thank them for their hard work in getting us to this point. This Government has a plan to deliver a brighter future for Britain, one where families are supported and given the peace of mind that their children are safe and being equipped with the skills they need to succeed. Good relationships, sex and health education, RSHE as it's known, plays a key role in this. However, following disturbing reports from parents of pupils being taught inappropriate content in schools and requests from schools who wanted more clarity on when to teach certain topics, the Prime Minister and I decided to bring forward the review into RSHE. We have listened to colleagues across Government and the House, we've gathered evidence from stakeholders and considered advice from an independent expert panel who generously gave their time, experience and knowledge to support the review last year, and I would like to put on record my personal thanks to each individual panel member. We need to make sure that the content of lessons is factual, appropriate, and that children have the capacity to fully understand everything they are being taught. We need to make sure our children are prepared for the world in which they live, but not in a way that takes away the innocence of childhood. In short, we need to allow our children to be children. It's a fine line to tread, and the schools need clarity on how to approach it. Overall, this guidance is underpinned by three core values. 1, parents have a right to know what their children are being taught. 2, teachers are there to teach children facts, not push the agendas of campaign groups. 3, schools should not teach about the contested issue of gender identity, including that gender is a spectrum. There are 5 major policy changes that I would like to set out. Firstly, the introduction of age limits for teaching sensitive subjects. The purpose of the new age limits is to make sure children are not taught things before they are ready to understand them. Informed by the advice of the independent panel and others, the guidance places specific age limits on the teaching of certain subjects. In primary schools, children learn about the importance of boundaries, privacy, and that they have rights over their own bodies. But no 10-year-old should be taught about the details of intimate sexual acts, sexual harassment and sexual violence. In primary schools, sex education is not a requirement and should only be introduced from Year 5 onwards. The content should align with the national curriculum's science teachings on conception and birth, ensuring it is rooted in fact. It should absolutely not be preparing primary-age children for sexual activity. The second flagship change is complete openness with parents. Parents are children's first teachers, and they must know what they are being taught. The guidance contains a new section that makes the need for transparency with parents crystal clear and clarifies the scope within the law to share materials. The bottom line is that curriculum providers should not be seeking to hide their materials from parents. This practice is completely unacceptable. Parents have a fundamental right to know what their children are being taught about healthy relationships, sex and development. Thirdly, on teaching about gender reassignment, many schools have told us that they need clear guidance to help them teach about this highly sensitive, complex issue in a factual and safe way. We are making it absolutely clear that the contested topic of gender identity should not be taught in schools at any age. Schools should not be providing classroom materials that, for example, include the view that gender is a spectrum. Whilst protected characteristics such as gender reassignment should be taught, they must be done so on a factual basis at an appropriate age and not based on contested ideology. This reflects the cautious common sense approach that we have taken in our guidance on children questioning their gender, and which also reflects the recommendations of the CAS review. There is also a dedicated section on sexual harassment and sexual violence. The growth of malign influencers online that pose a risk to children and young people has been significant, and one of the key ways the world has changed for young people since this guidance was originally published, and indeed since all of us were in school. This new section covers some specific types of abusive behaviour which were not previously discussed, such as stalking, as well as advice for teachers about how to address dangerous, misogynistic online influences. Now, I'd like to consider the sensitive but important issue of suicide prevention. Ministers and I have met bereaved families, experts and teachers to explore how suicide prevention could be taught as part of RSHE. And I want to pay tribute to the incredible work of the Three Dads Walk-In, who have used their unimaginable tragedies in their lives to campaign for important change. The current RSHE guidance already included content in relation to teaching pupils to look after their mental well-being and support themselves and their friends. And we've now made clearer how this content on mental well-being relates to suicide prevention. Of course, the topic of suicide itself needs to be handled sensitively and skillfully, and not before pupils are ready to understand it. Obviously, children's maturity varies, but our engagement suggested that typically children develop the necessary understanding from when they are in Year 8. We have made sure this updated guidance acknowledges that it can be important to discuss this with pupils, and we have added advice to set out how schools could address suicide prevention in their teaching. Finally, the guidance also includes a new topic on personal safety. This includes additional content on understanding the laws around carrying knives and knife crime, and the dangers of fire, roads, railways and water. Together, I am confident that this guidance will give teachers and head teachers clarity over what should and should not be taught. It will provide parents with the peace of mind that their children are being taught in a safe and factual manner, and it will reassure everyone across society that pupils are being taught what they need to know at the right age and time in their lives. A copy of the guidance has been deposited in the libraries of both houses, and I commend this statement to the House.
In front bench, Catherine.